Let's see. Rolling Seas is a game of my own design. So there's the box. Still do it like that. Okay. This is available on the Game Crafter. However, I am making some updates to it. So here you can see it's a game about sailing your ship around islands and encountering obstacles and adding to your story and managing your resources. So you'll end up with your game with a map kind of like this showing your path around the islands and what you explored as you hit sea monsters and rocks and storms and all sorts of stuff. And then as you tell your story, you'll score points and try and stop at ports to tell your story to earn reputation. And at the end of the game, whoever has the most reputation is the winner. Solo game plays very similar to a multiplayer game. It's similar to cartographers. I got a lot of ideas for this from cartographers. The map that you generate and stuff like that. So some of the things that I really loved about cartographers, I wanted to implement in this game, but I also wanted to make it its own game. So it does its own stuff. So I will go ahead and show you how to play. Okay, now I have to set up the deck. So we use 30 cards total, a combination of smooth sailing cards that do nothing each round, and a combination of obstacle cards each round. And I am going to throw in the pirates. They are a new feature. So we will shuffle in the 4 pirates into the deck. And now we'll shuffle this deck up. And I think we are going to do half and half. So I should get about 50% of my time should be obstacles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, which means I need 15 of these smooth sailing cards as well. So these can go out of the game. Okay, and then we shuffle this deck. Okay, this is our adventure deck. We'll flip over 1 card each turn and see if we have any adventures. But we always start our map with 2 adventures. So shuffle these. They should already be shuffled. And we will flip the card over. It is the Shipwreck Cove. It's rocks. So in a multiplayer game, you would pass this. You would pass your map to the left, and the person to your left would draw this obstacle on your map. They would have to draw it in either column P or row 4. They would draw rocks in those positions, and rocks you can't sail through. You have to go around them. In a solo game, you try and draw them so that at least one of the rocks covers up the intersection of P and 4. So we got P and 4 is right there. So a rock has to go there. Just fill it in red. And then diagonal. So I could put the other one here, or here, or here, or here. It would be my choice. I'm going to put it up here. So, and just so you can see the map. So there's column P and row 4, and that obstacle had to cover up P4. If I couldn't put it on P4, then there's a little anchor icon down there. I would have to put it as close to P4 as I could in row 4 first. If I couldn't do that, then I'd have to put it as close as I could to P4 in column P. So that is our first obstacle. Put that up there. And then the second one is actually pirates. And these are new. Pirates go in one of the quadrants of the map, and they go along shore somewhere. They can go next to a port if you want. So the ports on the map are the little hexagon spots. Those are the ports that you're going to be trying to go to. So we will put our pirates up in the northeast quadrant. So I don't know if you can see that. Get it to focus. So up in the northeast quadrant of the map. So that would be somewhere in this area. And it has to be along shore. So pirates, if they're not defeated at the end of the game, you'll lose 5 points. And in order to defeat them, you have to stop in the same space as the pirate, and you spend 3 provisions. So they're pretty expensive to defeat. They stop your movement, they cost a lot of provisions, but you do earn 3 gold and 2 story when you encounter them. So at the end of the game, 5 points isn't a whole lot, but it could be, the difference between winning and losing. So let's go ahead and put the pirates right here. With the markers, they're pretty big. I'm just going to outline the spot in black. That'll be easier to see. Okay, so those are our starting 2 obstacles. Now that we have starting obstacles on the board, I have to choose a home port. So any one of the 8 ports on the map, I can put a star or a circle or something around it to indicate that that's my home port where my ship is going to start. Let's go ahead and start. We'll start over here. That's my home port. And now I have to put a dot somewhere in the ocean, the water, adjacent to that port. And we'll go ahead. We'll start here. And that is the setup. If I wanted to, I could name, add my captain's name and my ship's name here. And if I wanted to, throughout the course of the travels, I could add a story to my travel log. Some people do, some people don't. Okay, now we will follow the turn order. So first step is to resolve adventures. So we will draw and add a card. It's smooth sailing, so we have no adventures. Now we roll all 4 dice. So these dice, we roll them, and then we add them to our compass here. The value of the die goes where the numbers sit. Okay, and then we take our explore die and put it up here. So now you have 3 choices on your turn. So you'll choose one option. You can either sail, explore, or visit port. I'm not adjacent to a land, so I can't explore. I am adjacent to a port, but I don't have any story or anything to tell, so I don't really want to stop at the port, but I am going to choose to sail. So when you sail, you can choose one of the 3 directions that, as the direction that the wind is blowing for you. So in my case, east, west, or northwest. And then you sail in whichever direction you want. But if you sail with the wind, it costs 1 movement point. If you sail, the more you sail against the wind, the more movement points it's going to cost. If you sail directly against the wind, it costs 5 movement points. So your ship to start has 3 movement points. You can gain extra movement points by spending a provision. Every provision you spend gets you 1 extra movement point. So as you earn provisions, you'll fill in the circles, and as you spend them, you'll cross them off on your ledger. So I have to decide where I am going to sail to. I think I want to sail, maybe we'll sail up towards this island. So there's not really any obstacles to add to my story yet. So I'm going to sail up towards this island, and we're just going to go northwest. We're going to take the northwest wind and just go 1, 2 spots, 2 spaces, and we'll stop there. And I have 3 movement points, and it only costs 1 movement point for every space northwest that I sailed. So I only used 2 of my 3. It could have sailed farther by spending provisions and stuff, but that's as far as I want to go, I think. Yeah. And that's the end of turn 1. So I'll just, I'll put down that I sailed northwest in turn 1. So now we're on to turn 2 and another smooth sailing. So we will roll the dice again. Okay. So we've got a 1 and a 2 up there and a 7 down here. So I could sail north or south, or I could explore, which I think I am going to do. So when you explore, if you're adjacent to land, you can mark an X in the spot that you're adjacent to. And then you take the reward that's shown on here, in which case in 6, it is 3 story points. So I am going to earn story points. I am going to check off 1, 2, 3 story points, and that gets me a bonus down here. I'll mark it, show that I took it, and that is a resupply. So I can fill my provisions, fill my boat with provisions. My boat can hold 5 provisions for my starting boat. I've already got 3, so I'll just go 4, 5. And now I am fully loaded with provisions, and I earn 3 story points. And that's the end of turn 2. So I explored. So we will move on to turn 3. And now we have a sea monster. So for adventures other than rocks, you'll draw on your own map. So sea monsters are purple. So get the purple marker out. And I can draw it anywhere in column P or row 11 that I want to on my map. So column P is here, and row 11 is here. So I want to get this over near where I am sailing and exploring and stuff. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put a box here. And just one of those boxes has to be in column P or row 11. I'm going to put that in row 11. And then it has to follow the shape. And again, you can rotate it or flip it, but I think I am going to keep it exactly the same way that it is laid out on here. Okay, so we've got our first sea monster that we have encountered. Okay, and now I roll the dice and decide what I'm going to do. So we've got 1 for explore, 7, 5, and 5. So I can sail east or south or explore to get to 2 provisions, 2 gold, and a story. I think I'm going to explore. I'm kind of tucked in here in a spot where I can explore. And that is going to get me 2 provisions. So when you explore, you always get whatever provisions you have. But since my ship can only hold 5, I have to dump 2 of them. But that does get me towards this bonus at the end. So it is good to explore and gain provisions. The resupply that I did just fills my ship up. It's not finding new provisions. It's just filling up. So I also get 2 gold. So you see the gold here. That will be used later when I am in port. I'll be able to upgrade my ship or buy provisions, resupply there. And I also get 1 story. So I'll check off another story. And that is the end of turn 3. I explored again. Okay, so turn 4 is smooth sailing. Okay, 10, 3, and a 5. Now I could sail over 1 space and stop at that port on the next turn, but you know what? I want to sail around a little bit. I think I can make it over by this pirate. I've got some provisions and stuff, so I'm going to use the east wind and sail 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's going to end me there. I could go 7, 8 and end right next to the pirate. So because the wind was blowing east, it cost me 1 movement point. So this little compass here can help you calculate. I'll hold this up a little bit so you can see. the direction that you choose for the wind, you put the 1 in that direction. So east was 1. And then I traveled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces to the east. So that cost me 6 movement points. But then I wanted to head southeast 1 space. So that cost me another 2 movement points. 6, 7, 8 to head southeast, to end right there. And that was 3 movement points and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That used all my provisions. That is the end of turn 4. Now, got to draw a card first. We have another sea monster at column J, which is here, or row 2, which is here. I think I'm going to put them down here, kind of right in the middle. We'll do them J. We'll do that. I may be able to hit that sea monster. There. So let's see. Now we roll the dice for turn 5. 11, 7, a 5, and a 6. Well, I was hoping to explore and get some supplies, some provisions, so that I could either encounter that sea monster or the pirate, but it doesn't look like that is going to happen. But I can get 3 story points for exploring, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And explore, and that gets me 3 story points. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And that is it for turn 5. Turn 6 is smooth sailing. Now roll the dice. And you can't explore in a space that you've previously explored. So I can't explore again there. And I'm only adjacent to the 1 spot. It's directly adjacent. Which means I kind of have to sail. And I don't have any provisions. So I cannot attack the pirate. And I cannot attack the sea monster. Both of them require provisions in order to move into there. So the sea monster requires 1 provision to move into a sea monster space. And the pirate, like I said before, I have to end my movement in the pirate space and spend 3 provisions in order to defeat it. But I get some gold and stuff when I do. So I am going to sail. I'm going to sail east. And again, I'll choose the 1 to the east. Can't sail directly to the east, so I have to sail southeast. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And that's as far as I can go because I have no provisions and my ship's movement is only 3. But at least I'm in a spot where I can explore twice and I can maybe try and find some provisions. So let's mark turn 6. You could just mark the turns off with an X or whatever. I like to put a little symbol showing what I did on that turn. But let's see. We've got some rocks this time. So remember, in a multiplayer game, you would pass your maps and your opponent would draw them on the map where the rocks would go. In a solo game, I have to put the rocks in spot D12. So there's D12. So I have to put a rock here. And it has to be adjacent. So I can't cover up the sea monster because it's already there. So I could put the rock there, there, or there for the other rock. Now, if I put it here, it's going to block off a passage around completely. And same if I put it here. It means I would have to, if I was going through here, I would have to go through that sea monster. I wouldn't have the option. So I'm going to put it here. Just because it gives me a little bit more flexibility. Okay, and now we roll the dice. This is turn 7. There are 25 turns in a game, so it goes pretty quickly once you're familiar with the game. Okay, man, we're rolling lots of doubles. So west or southeast, or I could explore. Explore would give me 3 provisions, a gold, and a story. That's good. I want that. So I'm going to explore. And I would get 3 provisions, 1 gold, and 1 story, which gives me a bonus gold, which gives me this bonus here that I can take at some other point in the game when I need it. That is a free move, 1 space in any direction. Doesn't cost them any movement points, and you can do it either at the beginning of sailing or at the end of sailing. Okay, so I explored for turn 7, and we will move on to turn 8. And it's smooth sailing, which is okay. Okay, we have north, west, or south winds, and a 2 for explore. So I could explore again and get over to here, which would get me 1 provision, 1 gold, and 2 story. Or I could sail. I want to try and defeat that pirate, so I am going to explore again, get another provision. It's going to take 3 to defeat that pirate, so maybe 1 more provision, depending on how the wind is blowing, will help me get there. So that gives me 1 provision, gives me another gold, and it gives me 2 story points. So I'm doing pretty good on my story, but again, it doesn't count for anything until I stop at a port and tell the story. So sometimes it's better to tell your story, even if it's not worth many points, but if you tell it more often, it'll build faster. So let's see. That was turn 8. I explored. Turn 9, smooth sailing again. So let's roll the dice. Got 12, another 12, and a 4. Okay, that's actually kind of good for me. So if I choose northwest as the direction, that means it would cost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movement points. I have 3, 4, 5, but that would only leave me 2 provisions, which I can't fight the pirate with. So I am going to use my free move, 1 space in any direction, to go to here. And now it'll cost me 1 to sail northeast and 2, 3 to get into the pirate. So I didn't have to spend, I did spend my bonus, but I didn't have to spend any extra provisions to get there. And I will defeat the pirate by spending 1, 2, 3 provisions. And again, when you defeat the pirate, you get 3 gold and 2 story. So that was big. 1, 2, 3 gold and 2 story points. So I'm up to 12 story points now. That's pretty good. And so I sailed northwest. But now I got to get to a port to tell that story. Got plenty of gold. So smooth sailing again. That's good. And now let's see if the wind is going to be favorable and let me get to my port. Okay, no, it doesn't look like it. I am going to be sailing west, north, or northwest, and an explore. You know what? I am now adjacent to land that I haven't explored yet. I'm going to take that explore and get 3 provisions. 1, 2, 3. That fills up this row, which is going to get me a bonus point at the end of the game. Not a lot, but it's worth something. And then 1 gold, which is going to get me a bonus story point, which is going to earn me a free move at some point. And then 1 more story point. So sometimes you can really chain together those bonuses. It's kind of fun. Okay, and I explored in turn 10. So now we are on to turn 11. Smooth sailing again. That means at some point I'm going to hit a lot of obstacles, which could be good, could be bad, depending on what comes up and what I'm trying to do at the time. Okay. Now, let's see. Can I get to a port? Let's see. We have a southeast. That is pretty good for me. So I am going to sail 1, 2 to get to the south, 3, 4 because I'm sailing to southeast. So we sailed south once. Let's see. So on my compass token, southeast, south would cost me 2 movement points. And then southeast is 1, 2. So that was 4 movement points. So my 3 and 4. Okay. Turn 12, we have another sea monster. This is the sea serpent. And that has to be in column J, row 8. I'm feeling pretty good about this at this time. So we're going to kind of surround me with a sea monster. I think I'm going to go to port and get a pretty good ship and fill up on provisions and be able to go battle a sea monster and tell some stories. Okay, so then we roll the dice. 6, 12, 11, and 3. So those are my options, but you know what? I am going to stop at the port and tell my story. So I'm going to stop at the port. I'll fill it in to mark that I was there. I can still stop there again, but I can't tell my story there again. So I'm going to tell my story. So when you tell your story, the first thing that you do is you score points equal to your story level. So my story is worth 14. I'm going to put it down here in my reputation. That gets me 14 reputation points. And then I gain a story because visiting port becomes part of your story. And then I fill in the port, which I already did. Now I have the opportunity to upgrade my ship if I want. So the next ship costs 4 gold. I have plenty of gold, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. 1, 2, 3, 4 gold. And then I also have the opportunity to resupply. So I can spend 1 gold, and I have it, to fill up my cargo. So my new ship now holds 7. So I've already got 1, 2, 3. So I'll go 4, 5, 6, 7. Again, a resupply just fills your ship up. It doesn't give you 7. It just fills you up to 7. So if I had already had 7, it wouldn't cost, it wouldn't pay to resupply. If I had 6 in my ship and I resupplied, I would spend a gold to get 1 provision. So it pays to come into port fairly empty if you can. Anyway, that was turn 12. So we're about halfway done now. So that was going to port. So turn 13. We've got some storms now. So storms go same way as the sea monsters. So in O or 3. So there's not really anywhere I can put it in column O unless I did like here, 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 here. Or I could do here, 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 here. But that's not anywhere that I want to go. So I'm going to look at row 3. And that doesn't really give me any options. So you know what? We are going to go ahead and we'll put it, now we'll just put it over here. So there's row 3. I could not do it here, here, and here because I've already sailed through there. And so I can't put it in a spot that I've sailed because I know it's there. And it wasn't a storm. I've already been there. So I can retrace my steps, my path, but there shouldn't be anything new there. Okay, let's roll the dice. 8, 3, 6, 8. Okay, so I can't stay there. I'm gonna have to sail away from there because there's nothing to do now. I've been to the port. You can't explore at a port. I'm not adjacent to any land that I can't explore, so I can sail. And I wanted to fight a sea monster. So I'm going to choose south. And I am going to sail 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to end up here. However, when I do that, I have to spend a provision to get there, a provision to get there, and a provision to... So anytime you enter a sea monster space, you have to spend a provision. So it's going to cost me 2 provisions right away. So 1, 2. And then movement points, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 movement points. My new ship has 4 movement points, so I just have to spend 1 more provision. And that is turn 13. I chose south wind, so turn 14. Get some more rocks. Those go in G15. So there's G15. So I put it there. So I can put it here or here from that spot. I'm going to put it here. Hope that I don't have to sail through that tiny little area. We'll find out. Okay, roll the dice. 12, 6, 11, and a 5. I need to encounter some more sea monsters. So I don't know that I'm going to be able to. So maybe I will just explore. Or maybe I should try and get to a port and tell my story again. Let's see. What if I chose west? I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 to get to there. I could use my free movement. Let's do that. So we're going to move 1, 2, 3 to the west, 4, 5, 6, 7 to get there. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7. And then use this free movement that I earned here to get to go boom and end right there. So didn't get to add to my story, but I need to tell that story or those points don't mean anything. Okay, so turn 15, we have a Leviathan. And that's going to come out in column B, row 14. Ooh, look at that. I could be ready to fight the Leviathan. Let's do that. Let's put it here and here. Maybe I can fight the Leviathan after I resupply and get another new ship. Although I'm not going to be able to afford both because the next ship costs 5. I've only got 5 gold. But let's see what happens. Maybe I'll explore before I go to that port. I have that option. Yeah, that'll get me 1 gold I need. Okay. Yeah, I think I will explore this little peninsula sticking out here. And that will get me 1 supply or provision, 1 gold, and 2 story points, which almost gets me another gold, but we're good. Okay, so I explored, and now I'm ready to go to port in turn 16. Oh, we got some currents. So currents push you along. They're going to be column M or row 10. That's somewhat useful. I could put it here, and have the current that way and that way. So current will push me right into that sea monster. So I just got to make sure that if I go that way, I can survive it. Okay, so roll the dice. 2, 11, 10. Okay, the dice don't really matter this turn for me because I'm going to go to port. So port. Tell my story to get 17, which is going to get me a story, which is going to get me a gold. Okay, and I block that off. Now I can buy a ship, so it's going to cost me 5 gold to get the new ship. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to spend 1 gold to resupply. My new ship can hold 10. So I've already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which earned me another story point. Okay, excellent. So now turn 17. Smooth sailing. Okay, that's good. Our map is starting to get filled up. Okay, 3, 12, 5, and 1. Okay, so, east wind. That's good. That's kind of what I was looking for, so I could fight the Leviathan. And if I wanted to, I could be tracking that in my travel log. So I'm going to sail east. And that's going to cost me 2 provisions right off the bat for going into the Leviathan. It's actually, what if I tried to hit all of them? Head down. I'm going to spend 3 provisions. I'm going to go there, up, and over. And that's going to cost me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 just to get to there. But I have 5, and I was filled. So another 7. I have 12. So that was 6, 7, 8, 9, 8, 9. Let's just end right there. We'll see where we go. So that was 9 movements. So I used my 1, 2, 3 for encountering that sea monster. Oh, you know what? I completely forgot. When I encountered this sea monster, I should have scored 2 story points for each one of them. And now I'm getting 6 more story points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which gets me another gold. I probably screwed up. I'm tired, but I'll play again later and hopefully not screw up. But you at least get the point of the game, and we'll see how I do. I'll put an asterisk next to this score, whatever it ends up as. Okay, that was turn 17. Now turn 18. More currents. G or 7. What the heck? Let's put them here. So remember, you can flip and rotate these. So this is rotated this way and then flipped, so that arrow is pointing to the right instead of left. Let's 10. Okay, I can explore to get 3 provisions of gold in a story. I need to get to some of these ports and tell my story. Getting closer to the end of the game. So if I choose a west wind, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and here. It's going to use all my provisions. Yeah, we'll do that. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8. And right there. Okay. R5, we've got the sirens at R. We'll just put it right at R5. I don't think I'm going up that way. That'll just be out of the way. We're getting to the point in the game where I don't want the obstacles in my way anymore. Okay, let's roll. Okay, that gets me 2 provisions, 2 gold, and a story. I'll take it for the explorer. So 2 provisions, 2 gold, which fills me up here, and a story. Gets me another bonus move and another story point. Okay, and that is it for 19. Smooth sailing, that's good. I don't want to be adding stuff to my map at this point in the game. 2. North or southwest. Wind is not being my friend right now. Well, let's see what I can do. If I choose southwest, That means it costs 2 to move west. And I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. It'll move me right into the current that will blow me right up into here. So I can get all the way to here for 4 movement points and 1 provision. So let's go ahead and do that. 1 provision and 4 movement points, which means I still have a movement point and a provision. And that's not going to get me anywhere useful. So I will go ahead and stop right there. So I added a storm to my map, but I didn't really talk about them yet. Storms, you don't have to spend any provisions, but you have to sail through it. You can't stop in a storm, and it'll earn you a story point for every storm space you get. Now here, I caught a current, and the currents push you without costing any additional movement in the direction of the arrows. And every 2 current spaces you go through gets you 1 story point. So that got me a story. And then encountering a sea monster costs a provision just to get into the space, but you earn 2 story points when you encounter a sea monster. So that got me 2 story points, which gets me this resupply bonus. So my current ship can hold 10. I've got 1, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So resupplies are good when you get that big ship. And that's going to give me a lot of supplies, a lot of provisions in order to maneuver around. And it gets me 2 bonus points at the end of the game because I got to the end of that spot on my ledger. I chose a southwest wind. Okay, let's move on to turn 21. Smooth sailing. That's good. I'm happy with smooth sailing right now. Okay, we've got a 9, an 11, 4, and a 2 for exploring. So now, as we're getting closer to the end of the game, one thing you want to think about is where you end. If you end at a port, you get 5 bonus points. But if you end at your home port, you get 10 bonus points. So you want to try and think about where you're going to end up. I want to try and get to another port to tell my story. So I have to decide, is it going to be worth the extra movement and supplies to get up to that port, which is closer to my home port as I'm nearing the end? Or do I want to sail all the way over here, maybe through a monster, and then hope I can make it all the way back there? I think I am going to do that. I am going to choose a southwest wind. So I'm going to sail 1, 2, because when I choose a southwest wind, heading west costs 2 movement points. 3, but that cost me a provision. 6, 11. I think I have enough to do that. Move to there. That's going to cost me another provision. Here, here, and here. And right in front of that port. And that's going to cost me, I already marked off my 2 provisions. That's going to cost me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 movement points. And I've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. See, when you get that big ship and you're filled, really gives you a lot of options for how to maneuver. So that was pretty good. I chose another southwest wind. Sailed all over the place. And I sailed through 2 sea monsters. So that's 4 more story points, which gets me another bonus movement. So I've got 2 bonus movements that I will be able to use at the end of the game. Now, unfortunately, I've only told my story twice. So if I had been telling small stories, 10 points or so, and I told it 4 or 5 times, I might end up having more points than I am going to on this game. I have a big story, but I'm not telling it very often. Okay. Anyway, turn 22. We've got another current, so maybe I can put this in a spot that's going to help me get back up that way. K or 6? Let's look at 6 and K. That's not going to help too much. Yep, not going to help me. So we're just going to... And that way, maybe I can come up there and hit there, and it'll push me right back. If I have a little bit of extra movement, it might get me an extra point. 6, 6, So that's not good. 666. I don't need a devil wind. I am going to port. I'm going to stop at that port. I'm going to tell my story for 38 points. And then my story becomes, or telling my story becomes part of my story. I don't have another ship to upgrade to, so that is fine, but I will spend the 1 gold to resupply. And that will give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which gets me 2 bonus story points now. 1, 2. Okay, I've got a big story going. And that was a stop at. And we're on turn 23. Remember, I want to try and time it so that I end turn 24 at a port so I can tell my story in turn 25, because then I can kind of double up. Everybody gets to tell their story one final turn at the very end of the game. But if I can tell my story in turn 25, I kind of you get to double that final story. So we've got a storm in A7. Put it here. It's still in column A and row 7, so it's meeting both of the criteria. Again, it only has to be an A or 7, but I might have a chance to hit that if I'm heading up to one of those ports. So let's see if there's a better wind this time. Okay, 11, 4, and 4. Not really helpful. I was hoping for something a little bit more northerly, but I do have a full cargo hold, and I do have 2 bonus movements. So let's see what I can do with that. If I choose an east wind and I sail northeast instead, that's going to cost me 2 for every spot that I moved. 2, 4, 6. Once you've sailed through an obstacle, it no longer exists. So I can sail right through that sea monster without any penalty, without having to pay the provisions. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 will get me to there and push me to there. 12, and that'll push me right back here. And that'll get me to my home port on turn 23. I'm not sure I want to be there on turn 23. I want to be there on turn 24. So dilemmas, things to think about. I could go 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and get to this port. And then I would tell my story at that port in turn 24 and maybe be able to sail. I'm going to try that. Okay, so that's 2. That's just to make it easy to figure out. 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 to get there. And that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And I'm going to be able to afford to resupply, which is going to get me 10. Not going to be enough to get those last 3 points, but it'll give me enough to hopefully maneuver just this little ways to end up there at turn 25 to get me the 10-point bonus. I'm only going to be able to hit 1 port to tell my story one more time within the game. So we'll try and tell the story there and end there. See how that works out. So turn 23, I sailed east. Smooth sailing. 10, 2. I am going to port in turn 24. Port there. I will tell my 41-point story, and that gets me a story point. And I will spend a gold to fill up my my cargo bay. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, excellent. Final turn of the game. L5. That would make things interesting. You can't stop in a storm. So I'm going to just try and do this. If I put it there, I would have to be able to get out of it, which would take me, well, not necessarily if I can get back up to that spot. Let's keep our fingers crossed. We'll try that. We'll try that and see if I can rack up a few more points right at the end here. Okay. Okay, 7, 5. Okay, it's a favorable wind. We want an east wind, so that's going to cost me 1, 2, 3 to get to there. 1, 2, 3 to get to there, which is going to blow me to there. 4, 5 to get to there, which is going to blow me to here, or push me here. And then I chose an east wind. That's going to be 4 to get to there. So 9 points, and I will end in the exact spot that I started. And that's going to cost me 9 movement. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And it is going to earn me 1, 2, 3 more story points. 1, 2, 3 more story points. I might have been able to use these bonus movements and some extra resources, some extra provisions to get even more points. But you know what? I'm not going to worry about it. So that gave me 3 story points. And that ends the game for me. So now I look along and finish things up. I didn't tell my story 8 times, so I didn't get the 20-point bonus. My final story is worth 45 points. I don't have any pirates that I didn't defeat, so that is 0. I ended at my home port, so I got 10 points, plus any stars that I got. So 1, 2. Oh, I had 3 bonus movements. I probably could have done a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 plus my 10, so 19 points. So that is 14, 35, 178. That was a pretty good score, considering I only told my story 4 times. Let's put Rolling Seas away. So the pirates and the smooth sailing cards are new. It used to be anytime you rolled doubles, you added an obstacle to the map. And that was a little too unpredictable. Some games had very few, some games had a lot. As you saw in this past game, it would have had a lot. I rolled doubles a lot of times. So I changed it to drawing a card every turn, and that's easier to control the frequency that they come out. The pirates are also new. They are a new obstacle to meet. And something else I am working on are events. So we've got these cards that would get shuffled into the event or the adventure deck. And then these are the event cards. So when you draw an event, when one of these cards comes up, then you would draw an event card. And they are different types. So we've got some that are persistent, some that activate on just that turn, and some that are immediate abilities that are things that happen. So just some examples, some of the immediate things that happen. A ship race. So everybody picks up one of the D12s and rolls it. And whoever has the highest roll plus their ship speed wins 1 story and 3 gold. And then everyone, based on their role, earns some other kind of a bonus. So everybody's going to earn something from this ship race. And the winner is going to earn more. But depending on how your race turned out, you may have a good story to tell. So if you rolled a 1, you had a horrible race, but you know what? It came up with a good story. You know, everybody gets something, and the winner gets a little extra. There's also strong currents, immediate. So you add an additional aerospace to the beginning or end of every current on your map. So now currents will push 3 spaces, and you get to choose extra space. That could be useful. Another angered the sea gods. Draw 2 more adventure cards. Then we have some persistent events that come up. So the persistent events, only one will stay out. So if a new one comes out, it replaces the other one. But this applies for the remainder of the game. So we have a merchant port, which is the next port visited is a merchant port. When you visit a merchant port, mark an M in the reputation box for that port. At the end of the game, your reputation for that port is equal to the amount of gold you collected in the game. So, for example, in the game that I just played, maybe port 2 was my merchant port. It scored me 21 points, but in this, it would have scored me 16 points because I got 16 gold at the end of the game. And you can only visit 1 merchant port per game, so it's just the next port that you visit. We also have island inhabitants. So this would replace the explore values on the dice mat, which would give you a different benefits if you explore. So you can encounter hostile inhabitants, which would cost you 2 provisions, but you get 4 story. Friendly, they give you 4 provisions and 2 story. Worshipful, they give you 2 provisions, 2 gold, and 2 story. They could be traders, lets you resupply, but it costs 2 gold, but you do gain a story. Maybe it's an abandoned village, and then you just gain 1 story, finding some ruins. Or it's a lost civilization. It costs you 2 provisions to find it, but you gain 4 gold and a story. And then we have 2 that happen just for the turn that they're drawn on. So they're not quite immediates, but they're not persistent either. They don't apply for the whole game. They just apply for that turn. So the first one is Mystic Waters. And for Mystic Waters, there's sunrise and sunset. So if you're in an open ocean space at the beginning of the turn, so that's pretty much immediate as soon as that's drawn, you can spend 2 provisions and gain 2 story. So it's your choice. At sunset, at the end of the turn, if you're in open ocean at the end of your turn, you may spend a gold to gain 2 story. So it gives you a decision. Maybe you don't want to end your turn next to an island or something. You could end in the middle of the ocean, which means next turn you have to sail, but you could spend a gold to gain 2 story when you do. And then the other one is the Sea Goddess Demands Tribute. So this is a little more event with some player interaction again. So all players will offer a tribute to the Sea Goddess. They'll secretly write the number of the tribute items, either gold or provisions based on the event value, that they will wish to sacrifice. They'll write it down on their ledger. And then simultaneously, everybody should reveal their tribute value. The winner loses their tribute and gains the reward list. They earn story points equal to the tribute that they offered. If there are ties, they split the story, rounding up. So if 2 people both said that they were going to give up 4 provisions, they would both earn 2 story. If 1 person said they were going to give up 4 provisions, they were the highest, they would get 4 story. And then everybody else may offer to give up their tribute as long as it's greater than 0 to gain 1 story. So those are the 2 this turn. I've also got another little module expansion that I'm working on. I don't have components made up for it yet, but a ships expansion where you have other ships that you'll be able to upgrade and roles that you'll be able to play, including a pirate captain who pretty much has their own set of rules. So instead of adding obstacles, they will add other ships to their map that they will be able to attack and gain gold and a reputation for being the most evil pirate that there can be, and they can attack other players' ships by seeing where they're at on the map and going there. So that's all kind of in the works. I don't have components made up for that one yet, but that'll be coming. And then the last module expansion that I have for the game, and this one has been tested quite a bit and works pretty well, is the crew expansion. When you stop at port, it adds one additional thing that you can do. There will be a number of these crew out in the tavern, which is essentially the marketplace. And after you have upgraded your ship, resupplied if you want to, then the last thing you can do is stop at the tavern and try and hire a crew. And so the crew, each one has a cost, a mixture of provisions and gold, and then you add them and they give you a benefit. For example, the Fusilier lets you spend an additional provision when entering a sea monster space to earn 3 story points instead of 2. The Merchant lets you exchange gold and provisions anytime you're next to a port. So 1 gold equals 2 provisions, or vice versa. The Storm Chaser is when drawing an obstacle on your map, you may draw it as a storm. There's one like that for pretty much every obstacle. The First Mate, gain a gold anytime you hire a crew member. And then the Cook, +2 cargo hold on your ship. And there's a whole bunch of different ones. And there's 2 of everything except for the Deckhand. Deckhand gives you an extra movement. There's 5 deckhands and 2 of every other role. And then at the end of the round, the tavern is refilled up to 5. And if there are ever 3 or more people in the tavern that have this little fist symbol, there's a tavern brawl and the whole tavern gets cleared out and replaced. Every crew member is also worth 1 point at the end of the game. This has been tested quite a bit and it works pretty well. Anyway, that's Rolling Seas. That's the game and some of the expansion pieces that I'm testing out and stuff. So